Hi, my name is Victor Williams. I'm an account development executive with Tipco Software, and I wanted to speak with you today about the CIO's dilemma. According to a recent survey by CIO Insight magazine, there are a couple of different areas that a CIO receives pressure from. One is the area of macroeconomics. The other is, of course, micro. Now, macroeconomic pressures are those pressures that are outside of the firm. Things such as competition, things such as security. You have government regulations, in other words, compliance. And these are issues, if you will, that the CIO is required to address. Now, in addition to those macroeconomic pressures, those pressures outside of the firm, the CIO has to address areas within his firm. The primary pressure is that of internal demand. Over the past 10 years, the role of the CIO has changed significantly. The CIO went from being someone that just managed IT to actually being a part of the overall company strategy. A couple of other areas, which is what we're going to focus on today, include that of capital expenditures, we'll call CapEx, and operational expenditures, OpEx. Now keep in mind, there's only one person that's held accountable for pressures outside and inside the organization, while at the same time facing an increasingly small budget to deal with. Over the past couple of years, IT budgets have grown at an annual rate of about 6 to 9%. And actually, that's being a little generous. I've actually seen cases where IT budgets have actually shrank, especially after the recent economic downturn. Now, the problem with this increase, if you're that fortunate, is the fact that the demand on internal IT resources is actually growing rather exponentially. One resource has calculated that IT expenditures have increased at a rate of over 90% year over year. What we're here to talk about is how we can fill this gap. Let's first start off by defining where this 90% increase is coming from. Well, capital expenditures, we'll say that that's a good thing. Those are where the company spends on assets such as hardware, servers, you're going out and getting talented people. You're going to need some solutions in order to leverage those people and resources. Things like software. So you're probably going to have, an Oracle database. You're going to have a DB2 server somewhere in there. You're going to have a CRM. You're going to have your HR applications. You're going to have things like your Microsoft Exchange server. You're going to have various other, ERP systems. And those are things that are necessary in order to compete in today's marketplace. What we found, though, is not a good idea for these applications to sit in their own silo. You're actually able to get a much higher ROI out of your investment by integrating these applications. And so what we've done in this market is we've had these resources develop point-to-point connections in order to share information across your enterprise. Also, let's say you're in the acquisition mode. You're going to have a company that you acquire have the same philosophy. Now, keep in mind, this is working kind of right now. This is status quo. This is how your business is turning a profit right now, hopefully. But what does this really represent? Keep in mind, out of the total budget, about 25% is actually spent on innovative things, such as your hardware, your people, these new technologies. 75% of the CIO's budget is spent on maintaining this environment. Now, that's operational expenditures. Those include things like heating, cooling costs, etc. About half of the OpEx is actually spent on maintaining this hodgepodge infrastructure of API, point-to-point connections. Because keep in mind, let's say this connection breaks. You have to use this resource to develop another connection. Let's say that this application comes out with a new version. You're going to have this resource reconnect that new version to the infrastructure. Let's say you actually go out and you make the acquisition of this company. You're going to have to go out and not only maintain this infrastructure, but bring it into your current environment. That's what half of your operational expenditures are coming from. And that's what we've seen across the industry. Well, TIBCO software has actually developed a new way of thinking. Actually, it's been around for the past 20 years, but we pioneered it on Wall Street a couple decades ago. And it's the notion of an integration bus. What if, instead of having these point-to-point connections, you were able to share that integration layer with every single application? What if, instead of these point-to-point connections from the acquisition that you're having to bring into your new environment, what if you were able to just plug and play with those as well? Well, this is what TIBCO customers are doing. They're taking this money and reinvesting it into new capital instead of wasting it on maintaining this archaic environment. And this integration layer is known as an enterprise service bus. Along this bus, messages are being shared between applications, databases, and systems automatically with minimal intervention from your resources. But what we've also done recently is we've taken it to the next level. Integration for integration's sake is no longer going to give you the ROI that you need in order to remain competitive. What we've done is we've taken this information that's traveling along this enterprise service bus, and we've given companies the ability to actually gain insight into every single action that's happening inside their environment. We call those actions events. What is an event? Well, take for instance one of our customers, which is one of the largest banks, and let's say one of their customers they have a couple. They're married, and the wife uses her debit card for a copay at an OBGYN. The husband uses his card in the ATM outside of the Babies R Us. He also goes to the furniture store and purchases a crib. He opens up a college savings account. Let's say the wife uses her card at a maternity store. Now, you and I know that more likely than not that someone is pregnant. Well, wouldn't it be great if your automated systems were able to sense and respond to events and correlate those events the same way? Keep in mind, you're going to have all kinds of events going on inside of your organization. The great thing about our event server is the fact that we take those events and we correlate them, and we're able to turn it into actionable information. And all of this is made possible with the next generation level of integration with the Enterprise Service Bus. Any questions?